Today is a very special day for the church. Does anybody have any idea of what today is? Today is Pentecost, and Pentecost is kind of the birthday of the church. Any guesses as to how old the church might be? We're not quite sure, but it's around 2,000 years. So the story of the birth of our church takes place in Jerusalem, not long after Jesus had been risen from the dead, and after Jesus had ascended into heaven. The disciples had all gathered together in the city as Jesus had told them, and they were waiting for the special gift that Jesus promised to them. On the day of Pentecost, they were all together in one room, and suddenly there was a sound from heaven like the roaring of a mighty tornado. It filled the whole house where they were meeting, and flames of fire came down from heaven and rested just above the head of each person in the room. And when this happened, they were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to be able to speak in other languages, languages they had never spoken before. Well, that caused a great big commotion, and such a big commotion that other people came from running in to see what was going on. And when they saw and heard the Christians speaking in all these different languages, they were confused. How can this be? They asked. We come from many different countries, and we all speak many different languages, and yet each one of us can understand what these people are saying. And then Peter stepped forward, and he explained to the crowd that the Jesus of Nazareth, whom they had crucified barely 2 months before, had been raised from the dead and was now up in heaven. He was seated at the right hand of God, and he told them that the Jesus was the Messiah that they had been waiting for, sent by God for all the people of the world. Many of the people in the crowd were deeply moved, and they asked Peter, "What should we do?" He told them to turn away from their sins, to turn to God, and to be baptized. And in the Bible, it tells us that 3,000 people were baptized that day. Can you imagine what it would have been like to have been there? To have felt and heard and experienced all of that firsthand, to have been part of that new thing that God was creating that day, this new community of faith, the church. Well, we might not have been there in Jerusalem 2,000 some years ago, but we are a part of that church. We are part of the family of God. And today, we can still and are still filled with the Holy Spirit. And we can use that Holy Spirit to help guide us in our lives and how we treat other people, how we support other people, and how we deal with all of the different problems of the world. And just as God's Spirit filled and inspired those first Christians, God also fills and inspires all of us